Hey guys, how you doing? I'm live. How you guys doing? Um, so I'm on my way to. I'm walking to the church. I go to the Mormon church. I think I'm the Alta Marietta ward. There's two wards in each, place where there's churches, and I know which one. I know which building. I know where the church is, and I know which ward I go to. So I'm just walking there. I love now that it's daylight savings time. I feel better already. It's only 12 days till spring. So the first thing I want to say really quickly in passing is there's a thing in the Bible where it says, if you are ashamed of Jesus, then Jesus will be ashamed of you in the judgment, that kind of thing, right? And notice it says if you are ashamed. It doesn't just say if you bear the shame. That just means tolerating it. It actually says if you are ashamed. That means if you feel shame, whether you're tolerated or not, you can tolerate it and still feel it. Jesus is saying more than that. He's saying if you even feel shame, Jesus will feel shame for you. So I'm doing my best to not feel shame, to show you that not only am I walking to church in long pants, but I've got this tie on because Marilee wanted me to wear one. I have like 3 or 4 ties at home, and I'm actually wearing it down the street with long pants on, shirt open, of course, and doing my best to not feel ashamed of all that I'm doing for Jesus. Walking to church with long pants with a tie around my neck, and trying and showing you guys and just feeling that I try not to have shame for any of that. Jesus walked up the Golgotha hill with a cross on his back. All I'm doing is walking down the street with a tie on, I think Jesus had it a little harder than me. But that's not the subject of this video. That's just introduction, what I wanted to say. But what I'm talking about is something about guitar that doesn't get talked about very much, I don't think. Even by me. It's just a deep subject, and people just don't go there. I want to talk about an interesting subject, actually. How the guitar is tuned and why it's tuned that way, or why people that made the guitar might have tuned it that way. So let's dig right in. So, all the notes to a guitar are not black keys on the piano. They're not sharps or flats. They're all keys that are in the C major scale, or A natural minor scale, or all the white keys. So we know that much. No flats and sharps. No black keys in the guitar tuning. So in white keys in classical music, every note has a third above it. That's either a major third or a minor third in the white keys. So let's go over this. F has a major third above it because F to A is a major third. C has a major third above it because C to E is a major third. G has a major third above it because G to B is a major third. D has a minor third above it because D to F is a minor third. A has a minor third above it because A to C is a minor third. E has a minor third above it because E to G is a minor third. And B has a minor third above it because B to D is a minor third. So which notes are we going to pick and how many strings and all that? Well, let's not have more than one open string that has a major third above it. It just makes it easier. So let's not have an F string, which has an A above it, which is major third. And let's not have a C string, because above that is an E, and that's a major third. Let's just cut the F and C out. It's enough that we have. Okay, so now you have 5 notes, essentially. You have G, D, A, E, and B. Okay, that's the order of the circle of fifths, starting on G and ending on B for what's called the G major pentatonic scale, which is also the E minor pentatonic scale, because that's a relative minor pentatonic scale. The E minor pentatonic scale is the relative minor pentatonic scale of the G major pentatonic scale. Okay, so let's say we're going to have at least 5 strings, each with a different note. And we're going to not have a C, not have an F, and only have white keys. So that means we're going to use the notes G, D, A, E, and B. That's 5 notes. But let's make one of them let's repeat one of them at the double octave, so that maybe the high string and the low string have the same pitch, but 2 octaves apart. In other words, one of the notes will have 2 strings having that note, and let's say those 2 strings are the first string and the opposite strings, the first string and the high string and the lowest string. So if I have 5 notes and I'm going to repeat one of them, then I'm going to have 6 strings. And since so the high string and the low string are going to be the same note, but then the other strings will be 4 different notes, but total there's only 5 unique notes, but 6 strings because 2 of the strings have the same note. So we're getting started. We're getting somewhere now. Let's not make it. Let's do it in order of the circle of fifths or circle of fourths, but let's not have it in. Let's not tune in fifths. Okay. Let's not tune G to D from low to high. G, A, B, C. That'd be a perfect fifth between the 2 strings, and then the D to A would be perfect fifth. A to E is a perfect fifth, and then E to B is a perfect fifth. That's a lot of stretching you have to do. You have to do a major scale. You have to play 4 notes on 1 string because the next string is a fifth. So you'd have to stretch as 5 or 6 frets with your left hand, or tapping or whatever. But your left hand would have to go a fourth on each string, and that's That's either 5 fret stretch if it's the perfect fourth you're playing, or a 6 fret stretch if it's a augmented fourth you're playing. So let's not do that. So let's go the opposite direction. Let's tune in fourths and see what we have. So in fifths, the order of the strings is G, D, A, E, and B. Backwards, it's B, E, A, D, G. Wait, B, E, A, D, and G. Yeah. So let's tune that way. Let's say we're going to go B, and then above that an E, and then we'll make the circle. Then above the E would be an A, and above the A would be a D, and above the D would be a G. That's a circle of fourths, actually. Fourths going up, fifths going down, but if going up, it's fourths. Now, what are we going to do about the G string? It's the only string that has a major third above it in white notes. Here's what I think we should do. Are you ready for this, Bomb? Not Mom, Bomb. Let's make, if you have the 5 notes G, D, A, and B, that's a G major pentatonic scale, but it's also an E minor pentatonic scale. Let's make the high string and the lowest string an E, so that fretting across any one fret will give the high string and low string a minor pentatonic scale, because in G, D, A, E, and B, E is the note that has the minor pentatonic attached to it. If I start on G, that's a major pentatonic. If I start on D, A, or B, those are modes of the G major pentatonic scale, but they're not the minor pentatonic scale. They're also modes of the A minor pentatonic scale, but they're not the A minor pentatonic scale. I mean, of the E minor pentatonic scale. Sorry, no, the G, D, A, and B is the E minor pentatonic scale, which is convenient because if the high string and the low string are both E, then fretting right across one fret will give you an E, a minor pentatonic scale. If it's open strings only, that's an E minor pentatonic scale. If you do the first fret, that's an F minor pentatonic scale. Second fret's F sharp minor pentatonic scale. Third fret is G minor pentatonic scale, etc. So now we know how we're going to tune. From the low string is going to be an E. A fourth above that is an A. Fourth above that is a D. Fourth above that is a G. And then, since the G has a B, which is major third, that means the second string will be a B, and then the high string will be a fourth above that, which is an E. So now we know now we know that's how the logic that went behind tuning guitars. If you walk across the strings from high to low or low to high, you can see it dancing around the G major pentatonic / E minor pentatonic scale on the circle of fifths. So, for instance, on the circle of fifths, the G major pentatonic scale is G, D, A, E, and B. So how do you figure that? Well, if you start with G, the third string, then go the next string. Second string is a major third above that. So that's going around counterclockwise from G to B, is going from the high. It's actually G to B, G A, major. The major third is we make a circle. When you circle from G, when you get to G, instead of going to C, you're going to go to the next note in the G major pentatonic scale, which is B. So you have that G to B, which is a major third. On the circle of fifths, it's 4/5, which is also a major third, or 4/4 is a major third, up or down, depends. So you have G to B, that's third string to second string, then B to E, that's counterclockwise on the circle of fifths, and that's the second string to the first string, and then the low string is an E again. And so that's still another E. And then from the sixth string to the fifth string is an A. That's a perfect fourth up, or perfect fifth down. And then A, perfect fourth up, is D, or perfect fifth down. And then finally D, up a perfect fourth or down a perfect fifth to G, is it completes the step, the journey from B to G counterclockwise on the circle of fifths. And that also, you can see that rotating around the strings of the 6 strings adjacent, and then high to low when it's time to go, around again. And there you have the logic of why guitars are tuned how they are, and how that looks on the circle of fifths. And interestingly, if you stare at a guitar, you can see that there's only 4 minor thirds and 3 major thirds in a major scale. So it's got the thirds above the open string. One of them is a major third. That's G to B. That's from the open third string to the fourth fret on the third string, G to B. All the others are minor thirds. So the high string, E to G, has a minor third up, third fret. G is the third fret. B to D, D's on the third fret. Then D to F, F's on the third fret. A to C, C's on the third fret, and then E to G, G's on the third fret. And so when you go to play your notes, if you want to know all the notes on the guitar, that's a good way to start. Just know that only the third string has a major third starting at the bottom. That are white notes. All the others have minor thirds. E, there's 2 E's, so that's 2, and E has a minor second above it, E to F. So there's 2 of those. So E, F, G is on the high string is fret 0, 1, and 3, and then on the 6th string, E, F, G is 0, fret 0, 1, and 3. And then the other note that has a minor third above it is B, and that's B, C, D, and that also has a half step above it, which is C. So the second string is B, C, D. The other 2 strings are minor thirds, but they have a major third, a major second above them, rather than a minor second, like the E and the B did. So you have the D, minor third up is with minor third up is F, and that's for open string, third fret, and then it has a major third above it, so that would be an E on the 2nd fret of the D string, a 4th string. So fret 0, 2, 3 is D, E, F on the 4th string, and then similarly with A, you have A, and then C above it is a minor third, so open string, 3rd fret. It has a major second above it, so that would be B. So A, B, C is open string, 2nd fret, 3rd fret. 0, 0, 2, 3. So that's a good example of of the theory of why guitars are tuned like that, like they are. Also, how that relates to the circle of fifths and the white keys, and a little bit about the practicality of how to look at the neck and see the notes, all the notes that are on the neck, so you can know the notes on the guitar. And all the notes that aren't, of course, all the flats and sharps are in between in between the natural notes or white key notes. So anything else? Let me think. Yeah, so it's a good way to learn how to see the notes on the guitar, how to learn them all, and all that. Love you guys. Peace, love, and rock and roll.